My wife left for a girls' trip on a Friday morning without kissing me goodbye, without leaving a note, and as I found out 12 hours later, without telling any of the girls. At first, I thought it was just Lauren being Lauren. She had a way of turning silence into a locked door. If she was upset, she didn't argue. She vanished into errands, yoga classes, long showers, or her phone. After 6 years of marriage, I had become embarrassingly fluent in the language of being shut out. I'm Caleb Hart, 34, and I restore old houses for a living. I can fix a rotted staircase, rewire a kitchen, and make a 100-year-old window slide, like butter. But I could not, for the life of me, figure out how to repair a marriage where one person kept leaving the room emotionally before the conversation even started. That Friday, Lauren rolled her suitcase past me while I stood in the kitchen holding a mug of coffee I'd forgotten to drink. "Savannah?" I asked. She didn't look up from her phone. "Mm-hmm. With your college friends? That's what girls' trip means, Caleb." There was a time she would have smiled when she said something like that. Teased me. Come over and stolen my coffee. That morning her voice had the flat shine of ice on pavement. I nodded because I was tired of begging for warmth like it was a favor. "Have a good time," I said. She paused at the door, one hand on the handle. For half a second I thought she might turn around, maybe say she was sorry, maybe ask if we were okay. Instead, she said, "Don't wait up." Then she left. By 7 that night, the house felt too quiet. Not peaceful quiet, not bachelor for the weekend quiet, more like the silence after someone has taken the pictures off the walls but left the nails behind. I made dinner for one, burned the chicken, and ate cereal over the sink like a man who had technically survived adulthood but not impressed anyone. At 9:13, Lauren's sister called. Her name was Claire Donovan, 32, elementary school art teacher. Sharp brown eyes. A laugh that always arrived before she did. She and Lauren looked enough alike that strangers called them twins, but they couldn't have been more different. Lauren was polished marble. Claire was candlelight on a messy table. I hadn't seen Claire much lately. Lauren said her sister was too involved, which usually meant Claire had asked a question Lauren didn't want to answer. When Claire's name lit up my phone, I almost didn't take it. Then something in my chest tightened. "Hey," I answered. "Everything okay?" There was wind on her end. Car noise. Then Claire said, "Is Lauren with you?" I looked toward the empty hallway as if my wife might appear just because her name had been spoken. "No, she's in Savannah with Megan and the others." Claire went silent. Not confused silent. Afraid silent. "Claire? She's not in Savannah," she said. My hand tightened around the phone. "What do you mean?" "I mean, Megan just posted from her couch in Dallas. I called Tasha. I called Brooke. There's no girls' trip." I set the cereal bowl down carefully like it had become breakable evidence. "Maybe plans changed." "Caleb." Just my name. Soft. Hurt? Like she was warning me not to lie to myself while she was listening. I walked to the front window. Outside, our little street in Asheville was washed in porch lights and late summer rain. Lauren's parking spot was empty. "Did she tell you anything?" I asked. "No." "Did you two fight?" "She hasn't answered me all day." I pressed my fingers against my eyes. My first feeling should have been panic, maybe anger, maybe suspicion. But under all of that, low and ugly, was humiliation. Because there was a part of me that wasn't surprised. Claire exhaled shakily. "I'm coming over." "You don't have to." "I know." The line went dead. 20 minutes later, headlights swept across my living room wall. I opened the door before she knocked. Claire stood on my porch with rain in her hair and a cardigan wrapped tight around her. She looked like she had thrown herself into the car without thinking. Jeans, sneakers, no makeup, silver hoops catching porch light. Her eyes moved over my face with a tenderness that nearly undid me. Not pity. That would have been easier to resist. Tenderness. "Can I come in?" she asked. The words landed strangely. Like a line. From a life I hadn't agreed to enter. I stepped aside. "Of course." She brushed past me, close enough that I caught the clean scent of rain and vanilla soap. It was nothing. It was everything. My marriage was missing, my wife was lying, and somehow my body still noticed the warmth of Claire's shoulder inches from mine. I hated myself for that. She stopped in the living room and looked around. You didn't change anything. What? The house. She touched the back of the old blue armchair by the window. Lauren always wanted everything beige. I almost laughed. That's because beige can't disappoint anyone. Claire turned, and there it was. A tiny smile, reluctant but real. You still make jokes when you're bleeding. I'm not bleeding. Caleb. Again, just not my name. She had a dangerous way of saying it like she already knew the answer and was giving me one last chance to be honest. I looked away first. She walked into the kitchen without asking and opened the cabinet where we kept mugs. Not where guests guessed, where family knew. Tea? She asked. You came to my house in the rain because my wife disappeared, and you're making tea? If I don't put my hands to work, I'm going to say things I can't unsay. That makes two of us. Her hand paused on the kettle. The room changed. It was subtle, but we both felt it. The air tightening, the space between us suddenly aware of itself. Claire looked back over her shoulder. Then maybe we should start with the things we can say. I leaned against the counter. Like what? Like you look exhausted. That's generous. I was aiming for rugged. You look like a haunted contractor. Still rugged. This time she laughed, and for one brief second the kitchen became something else. Warmer. Familiar in a way my own marriage hadn't felt in months. Then her smile faded. She pulled out her phone and unlocked it. I didn't just come because Lauren lied about the trip, she said. My stomach dropped. What else? Claire stared at the screen, chewing the inside of her cheek. Before I show you this, I need you to understand something. That's never a comforting sentence. I'm serious. So am I. She took one step closer and held the phone against her chest instead of showing me. Her eyes shone, but she didn't cry. I have spent a long time trying not to interfere in your marriage, she said. Longer than you know. I went still. Rain tapped against the kitchen window. The kettle began to hum on the stove. What does that mean? I asked. Claire looked at me like the answer might break more than one heart. Then she turned her phone around. On the screen was a message from Lauren, sent to Claire at 6:42 that morning. Tell Caleb I'm sorry if he asks. But don't tell him where I went. He'll understand soon enough. I read the message 3 times, hoping the words might rearrange into something less cruel. Tell Caleb I'm sorry if he asks, but don't tell him where I went. He'll understand soon enough. The kettle screamed. Claire flinched. I reached past her and turned off the burner, and for a second we were too close. My arm beside hers, her breath catching near my collarbone, the heat from the stove at our backs. Neither of us moved. Then Claire whispered, I'm sorry. I stepped away first because I was still a married man and because every nerve in my body had just noticed a woman who was not my wife. Don't, I said. Her face tightened. Don't what? Apologize for her. Claire set the phone down on the counter. It's a sister habit. I've been doing it since we were kids. Lauren breaks the vase, Claire sweeps up the glass? Pretty much. That sounds exhausting. It is. She gave me a sad little smile. But I'm very good with a broom. I laughed once despite everything. She poured hot water over tea bags and slid a mug toward me. Chamomile. Lauren hated chamomile. Said it smelled like lawn clippings and old ladies. Claire remembered I liked it. That small fact hit me harder than it should have. We carried the mugs into the living room and sat on opposite ends of the couch, an ocean of gray upholstery between us. Rain kept tapping the windows. The house smelled like tea and wet pavement and the lemon oil Claire had once recommended for the old floors. Did she say anything to you lately? Claire asked. I wrapped both hands around my mug. Lauren? No, your other disappearing wife. I looked at her. She lifted one shoulder. Sorry, panic makes me sarcastic. Then you're handling panic beautifully. That earned me another smile, faint but real. And there it was again, the dangerous warmth. The way a room changed when Claire let even a little light into it. I looked down at my tea. She's been distant, more than usual. For how long? Months. I swallowed. Maybe longer. It's hard to admit when loneliness becomes the normal temperature of your house. Claire's fingers tightened around her mug. I regretted saying it, not because it wasn't true, but because truth has weight and I could see her taking it on. Caleb, she said softly, you don't have to make it sound poetic for it to count. My throat worked. No one had said anything like that to me in years. Lauren liked me tidy, easy, useful. Claire had always had this terrible habit of seeing the bruised parts and refusing to look away. I kept thinking if I was patient enough, I said, she'd come back to me. Claire's eyes glistened. And did she? I shook my head. The silence after that was not empty. It was full of everything we weren't allowed to touch. Claire set her mug on the coffee table and scooted closer. Not much. Just enough that the ocean between us became a river. I need to tell you something, she said. My pulse changed. Okay. Last month, Lauren told me she was thinking of leaving. The words landed like a fist, but not a surprise. What did you say? I asked if there was someone else. I stared at the rain sliding down the glass. And? She got angry, too angry. I breathed out slowly. Right. Claire reached over, then stopped herself, her hand hovering between us. I didn't tell you because she made me promise she'd talk to you herself. I thought... Her voice cracked. I thought I was giving your marriage room to survive. I looked at her hand. Then I did something I probably shouldn't have done. I took it. Her palm was cool from the mug, her fingers slender and tense. She stared at our joined hands like she didn't know whether to pull away or hold on harder. I don't blame you, I said. You should. I don't. Caleb? Claire. Her eyes lifted to mine. I needed someone in this house to tell me the truth tonight, I said. You did. Her thumb moved once against the back of my hand, small, accidental, devastating. For a while we sat like that, hand in hand, two people on the edge of a cliff pretending not to look down. Then Claire tried to smile. This is probably where a responsible adult would suggest checking credit cards or calling hotels. I was hoping the responsible adult was you. I'm an art teacher. I once glued my sleeve to a papier-mâché volcano. Still more qualified than me. She laughed, and the sound loosened something in my chest. I let go of her hand before I forgot why I had to. We checked what we could. Lauren's location was off. Her cards hadn't shown new charges on the shared account. Her suitcase was gone. Passport still in the desk drawer. Claire called again, straight to voicemail. The fear came back in practical shapes. Roads, strangers, hospitals. I called 2 local urgent cares and then stopped because Claire placed her hand over the phone. She planned this, she said. That message proves it. Planned what? I don't know. Her phone buzzed on the coffee table. Both of us looked. A new text from Lauren. Claire read it, and all color left her face. What? I asked. She didn't answer. I picked up the phone from where her fingers had gone slack. Tell Caleb not to look for me. And Claire, for once in your life, stay out of what isn't yours. Below it was a photo. Me. Taken through my kitchen window earlier that night. Standing beside Claire. My blood went cold. Claire whispered, "She's here?" I crossed to the window and yanked the curtain open. The street was empty except for rain shining under lampposts. My first instinct was anger. My second was to turn the house into a fortress, but when I looked back, Claire was standing in my living room with her arms wrapped around herself, trying very hard not to shake. I went to her. Slowly. No sudden move. No heroic nonsense. "Hey," I said. She looked up. "I'm glad you came over." Her lips parted, like that was the last thing she expected. "Caleb, your wife might be watching us." "I know." "And you're glad?" "Yes." I held her gaze. Not because of this, because before that text, before any of it, I was sitting in this house alone thinking I deserved the silence. Her eyes filled. "You don't," she said. "Neither do you." That broke something gentle in her. She stepped forward and I opened my arms because she was already choosing the space between them. Claire fit against me like a held breath finally released. Her cheek pressed to my chest. My hand settled at the middle of her back, careful and still, though every part of me wanted to pull her closer. She did that herself. For 1 minute, we stood there while rain whispered against the glass, and my life rearranged into before and after. Then she murmured into my shirt, "This is complicated." I closed my eyes. Yeah, and wrong. Maybe. She tilted her head back. Maybe. I looked at her mouth, then forced myself to look at her eyes. Feeling seen for the first time in a long time doesn't feel wrong, I said. Acting like it's simple would. Her breath trembled. Good answer, she whispered. Infuriating, but good. I smiled despite the ache in my chest. I do my best work under emotional collapse. She laughed against me, and for a heartbeat, she rested her forehead under my chin. Then a car door slammed outside. We both went still. Claire pulled back just enough to look toward the window. On the porch, someone knocked once. Hard. The knock came again. Not frantic, not polite. Certain. Claire's fingers curled into my shirt before she seemed to realize it. She let go as if burned, but I caught her hand before she could retreat all the way into herself. I'll answer it, I said. She lifted her chin. I'm coming with you. Claire. If you say it's not safe, I'll throw your chamomile in the sink. Despite everything, I stared at her. That's your threat? It's premium chamomile. You fight dirty. Her mouth twitched. Fear was still in her eyes, but so was that spark I had always admired, the part of her that refused to become small because someone else wanted her scared. I squeezed her hand once, a choice, a promise, not protection exactly, partnership. Then I opened the door. No, Lauren. A man stood on the porch in a dark raincoat holding a manila envelope under one arm. Mid-50s, square jaw, tired eyes. Caleb Hart? He asked. Yes. He glanced at Claire, then back at me. I'm Daniel Price, attorney for your wife. The word wife landed in the doorway like a third person stepping between us. Claire pulled her hand from mine. I hated the emptiness it left. Daniel held out the envelope. Mrs. Hart asked that you receive these tonight. Where is she? I'm not authorized to say. I didn't take the envelope. Then you can tell her I'm not authorized to play whatever game this is. His expression softened, just a little. I understand this is difficult. No, Claire said, stepping forward. You understand billable hours? Where's my sister? Daniel looked at her. Ms. Donovan, Lauren specifically requested that you not be involved. Claire laughed once, sharp as glass. That sounds exactly like Lauren. I took the envelope before she could say something that ended with police lights. Daniel gave a short nod. My advice: read before you react. Then he walked back through the rain to a black sedan parked under the maple tree. I shut the door. For several seconds, neither of us moved. Then Claire whispered, Open it. Inside were divorce papers, not a note, not an explanation, just legal language, signatures already in place, and a settlement proposal so clean it felt rehearsed. Lauren wanted the house sold, accounts separated. No mediation unless necessary. At the bottom of the stack, clipped to the final page, was a smaller envelope. My name in Lauren's handwriting. My fingers felt numb opening it. Caleb, you can stop pretending now. So can I. I know you and Claire have always understood each other in a way you and I never did. Maybe I should hate you both for it, but I don't have the energy. I'm not coming home. Please sign. L. I read it twice. Then handed it to Claire. She covered her mouth. That's not fair, she said. No. She's making it sound like we... I know. We didn't. I know. Her eyes flashed. Don't do that. Do what? Sound dead. The words hit harder than the papers. I looked down at the settlement proposal, at my marriage reduced to numbered paragraphs. I don't know how else to sound. Claire set the letter on the coffee table with careful hands. Then borrow my voice for a minute. This is cruel, it's cowardly, and it is not your fault. I looked at her then. Really looked. Rain darkened the shoulders of her cardigan. One curl clung to her cheek. She was furious for me, wounded by her sister, and still standing in my living room as if there was nowhere else she'd rather be. Something in me shifted. Not toward her because Lauren had left. Toward her because Claire stayed. I need air, I said. We ended up on the back porch under the slanted tin roof, sitting on the old swing I had restored the year we bought the house. The rain softened the yard into silver lines. Claire tucked one foot beneath her, shoulder close to mine. I used to love this porch, she said. You came here twice. 3 times. You were on a ladder one of them, looking very pleased with yourself. I had just replaced the gutter. Exactly. Peak masculine arrogance. I glanced at her. Are you saying gutters don't do it for you? I'm saying no woman should be expected to resist a man with a level and emotional damage. I laughed, unexpectedly, fully. Claire smiled at the sound, and there was no pity in it. Only relief. The swing creaked beneath us, our shoulders brushed. Neither of us moved away. After a while, she said, I need to confess something. My heart gave a slow, painful thud. Okay. I noticed you before I should have. I stopped breathing. She looked out at the rain, cheeks flushed even in the dark. Not like some grand betrayal. Not like I plotted anything, just noticed. The way you listened. The way you always handed me the blue mug because you remembered it was my favorite. The way you'd ask about my students and actually wait for the answer. I stared at her profile. Claire. I know. She shut her eyes. I know it's awful. No. My voice came out rough. It's human. She turned to me then. Did you? There were 10 safe answers. I gave her the honest one. Yes. Her breath caught. I noticed you, I said. And then I hated myself for noticing. So I buried it under being polite, under being married, under telling myself that kindness felt intense only because I was starving at home. A tear slipped down her cheek. I reached up slowly, giving her every chance to pull away. She didn't. My thumb brushed the tear from her skin. She leaned into my hand. It was the smallest surrender I had ever seen, and it nearly broke me. We can't start here, she whispered. No. Not tonight. Not like this. I know. But neither of us moved. Her hand came up and covered mine against her cheek. But don't lie to me later and say this was nothing. I shook my head. I won't. Promise? I promise. For a moment, the rain was the only sound. Then Claire shifted closer and rested her head on my shoulder. Not a kiss, not a line crossed, but a line acknowledged. I pressed my cheek lightly against her damp hair, and for the first time all night, the ache in my chest had somewhere to go. We stayed that way until her phone buzzed. She groaned. If that's my sister, I'm throwing myself into the hydrangeas. Dramatic. I'm an art teacher. She checked the screen. Her face changed. What is it? I asked. A voicemail. She swallowed. From Lauren. Claire put it on speaker. My wife's voice filled the porch, calm and distant. Claire, if you're with Caleb, listen carefully. I meant what I said. Stay out of it. You always wanted what was mine. Now you can have him. But if either of you comes looking for me, I'll make sure everyone knows exactly how long this has been going on. The message ended. Claire stared at the phone as if it had slapped her. I took it gently from her hand and set it beside us. Then I turned toward her fully. Look at me. She did, barely. I know what's true, I said. Her lips trembled. People won't care. I care. That won't be enough. It is tonight. She broke then, silently folding forward. I gathered her close, not because she was fragile, but because she reached for me first. Fingers fisting in my shirt, forehead against my throat. I'm not ashamed of caring about you, she whispered. My arms tightened around her. Neither am I. And in the dark, with divorce papers on my coffee table and rain closing around the house, Claire lifted her face. For one suspended second, we were close enough to make the worst decision beautifully. Instead, I kissed her forehead. She closed her eyes. Caleb, she murmured. Yeah? When this is clean, if it ever can be. It will be. Her hand slid into mine. Then ask me properly. I held her hand like it was the first honest thing I'd been given in years. I will. For 3 weeks, Claire and I became experts at almost calling too late, almost touching too long, almost saying the thing that already lived between us. Lauren did exactly what she promised. She told her version first. By Monday morning, my phone was full of messages from people who hadn't checked on my marriage once while it was dying, but suddenly had expert opinions on how it ended. Brooke texted, "Is it true about you and Claire?" Megan wrote, "Lauren is devastated. I hope you're proud." My mother called twice, then left a voicemail that began with, "Caleb, sweetheart, I love you, but what on earth?" I didn't answer any of them. Claire did worse. She answered everyone, not with apologies, with facts. Nothing happened. Lauren left. Lauren filed. Caleb and I are not your entertainment. She showed me one reply while we sat in the courthouse parking lot before my first meeting with my own lawyer. "You used a period after entertainment," I said. Terrifying. I wanted them to feel the door closing. I felt it, and I'm not even Megan. Claire smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. She had dark circles beneath them. Her hair was piled on top of her head with a pencil stuck through it, and there was yellow paint on her wrist from school. She looked exhausted. She looked beautiful. That was becoming a problem I no longer knew how to politely ignore. "Hey," I said. She looked over. "You don't have to come in with me." "I know. I mean it. This isn't your mess." Her expression softened. "Caleb, if you call yourself a mess one more time, I'm going to make you sit through my second grader's recorder concert. That feels unconstitutional." "Then behave." I laughed, and she reached across the console, palm open. I took her hand. By then, we had rules. No kissing, no sleeping over, no hiding, but no performing either. We were careful because the world was watching for ugliness, and because both of us wanted something we didn't have to be ashamed of later, but hand-holding had become our loophole. Her thumb moved across my knuckles. "Whatever happens in there, you are not the story Lauren is telling." I stared at our joined hands. "What if part of it is true?" Claire went still. "I did notice you," I said quietly. "Before. I didn't act on it, but I noticed. Maybe that makes me less innocent than I want to be." She turned toward me fully. "Then I'm less innocent too." That's not comforting. It wasn't meant to be. Her voice was gentle. "I don't want us to build anything on pretending we were perfect. I want honest." The word landed between us, bright and impossible. I lifted her hand and pressed my mouth to her knuckles before I could overthink it. Claire's breath caught. It was such a small kiss, barely anything. But her eyes changed like I had touched a match to the dark. "Caleb," she whispered. "I know," I said. "Rules. That was technically allowed." "Technically? Knuckles are a gray area. I'll make a note." She laughed, and for the first time that morning, the sadness loosened around her mouth. Inside, my lawyer, Mara Singh, read through Lauren's filing with a calm that felt expensive. "She's asking for a clean split," Mara said. "The house sale is the largest issue. No children, no major shared debt. This can be straightforward if no one keeps escalating." Claire sat beside me, quiet but present. "And the accusation?" I asked. Mara looked over her glasses. "Infidelity only matters legally if she can prove financial misconduct, or if you're in a state where it affects terms. She can embarrass you socially. She can't invent evidence." "She has a photo through my kitchen window," Claire said. Mara's brows rose. "That's not evidence of an affair. That's evidence someone stood outside in the rain being dramatic." Despite myself, I smiled. Claire muttered, "Runs in the family." By the time we left, I had signed nothing. Mara wanted to negotiate the house. Lauren wanted it sold, but the house had been mine before the marriage, even if the renovations happened during it. It would take time. Outside, Claire stopped on the courthouse steps. "What?" I asked. She looked up at the cloudy sky. "I hate that I'm relieved." "About what?" "That it's really ending." She closed her eyes. "She's my sister. I should be grieving for her." "You can grieve and be relieved." She opened her eyes. "When did you get so emotionally fluent?" "I've been studying under a terrifying art teacher." "Smart man." "I try." Her smile faded into something more vulnerable. I also hate that part of me is happy. My chest tightened. About us? I asked. She nodded once. People moved around us, carrying folders and coffee and the wreckage of their own lives. Claire stood in the middle of it, brave enough to tell an ugly truth softly. I stepped closer, not touching yet. I'm happy too, I said. Her eyes shone. And scared, I added. Good. I don't trust fearless men. No? No, they usually own motorcycles or emotional avoidance. I own a circular saw and moderate anxiety. Much better. We were laughing when my phone buzzed. A text from Lauren. You're making a mistake. Claire gets bored when she wins. Claire saw the name before I could hide it. Her face closed. I didn't reply. I turned the phone off and slipped it into my pocket. Caleb. No. She's trying to. I know what she's trying to do. I held out my hand. Come with me. Where? Lunch. She blinked. Lunch? Yes. We just came from a divorce lawyer. I'm aware. And your wife just insulted me. Estranged wife. And I'm choosing to spend the next hour with the woman in front of me instead of the one trying to yank strings from a distance. Claire stared at me. Then, slowly, she put her hand in mine. We walked 2 blocks to a tiny diner with fogged windows and a pie case by the register. It was not a date. We both said so. Then I held the door for her. She stole fries from my plate. I ordered her blackberry pie because she kept looking at it and pretending she wasn't. She made me laugh so hard I forgot, for 11 whole minutes, that my life was on fire. So, she said, pointing a fry at me, if this were a date, hypothetically, how would you be doing? Strong 7. 7? I lost points for courthouse ambience. Fair. You? She tapped her chin. 8.5. I leaned back. Generous. You remembered the pie. I'm very strategic. You're very sweet, she said. The words were simple, her voice was not. Under the table, her knee brushed mine. Neither of us moved away. For dessert, she pushed the plate between us and handed me a fork. Shared pie, extremely non-romantic. Legally meaningless. Morally delicious. I took a bite. That's terrible. It is not. It tastes like regret and purple. She gasped. Take that back. Never. She scooped up filling with her fork and held it toward me, eyes challenging. Try again. I should have taken the fork from her. Instead, I leaned forward and let her feed me the bite. Her lips parted slightly. The diner blurred. This was intimacy in broad daylight. Sweet, foolish, and impossible to deny. Better? She asked softly. I swallowed. Much. Her cheeks flushed. When we left, rain had stopped. The sidewalk shone. Claire paused beside her car, keys in hand. Thank you, she said, for insulting your pie? For choosing the hour. I moved closer. I'll choose more than an hour when I can. She looked up at me. Ask properly, remember? I remember. For a second, I thought she might kiss me. Instead, she rose on her toes and kissed my cheek. Warm, lingering, just at the edge of my mouth. Then she stepped back, breath unsteady. Gray area, she whispered. I smiled, aching everywhere. Claire. Yeah? When this is clean, I'm not asking hypothetically. Her eyes held mine. Good, she said, because I'm done pretending I don't know my answer. Clean took longer than I wanted. It took 4 months of lawyer emails, appraisals, signatures, and Lauren changing her mind twice about furniture she had never liked until I wanted to keep it. In the end, she didn't fight as hard as I expected. Maybe because there was no grand scandal to prove. Maybe because Mara was as gentle as a brick wall. Maybe because Lauren had already left our marriage long before she rolled that suitcase out the door. The house stayed mine. The marriage did not. On the morning the divorce was final, I sat in my truck outside the courthouse with the decree on the passenger seat and felt quiet. Not happy, not devastated. Free, but bruised. My phone buzzed. Claire, are you okay? I stared at the words for a long time. Then I typed back, ask me in person. Her reply came instantly. Claire, Caleb Hart, are you asking properly? I smiled for the first time that day. Me. I'm asking you to dinner. Properly. No hypotheticals, no gray areas. Just you and me, if you still know your answer. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Claire, pick me up at 7. Wear the blue shirt. It makes you look emotionally available. I laughed alone in the truck, and for once, loneliness did not answer back. At 7, I stood on Claire's porch with flowers in my hand like a nervous teenager. Not roses, sunflowers, because she once told me roses tried too hard and sunflowers had golden retriever energy. She opened the door before I knocked. She wore a green dress and silver earrings. Her hair fell loose around her shoulders. For a second, I forgot every speech I'd practiced. Claire leaned against the doorframe. Well? Well, what? Do I get the full date reaction, or are you going to stare until one of my neighbors calls someone? You're beautiful, I said. Her teasing expression softened. Oh, she whispered. I had better lines in the truck. That one worked. I held out the flowers. These have golden retriever energy. She took them, laughing, and buried her face in the petals. You remembered. I remember things about you. Her eyes lifted to mine, warm and unguarded. That was the first moment I let myself believe we might be something more than almost. Dinner was at the same little diner near the courthouse because Claire said romance was partly about reclaiming cursed locations. We shared fries. She ordered blackberry pie without pretending not to want it. I did not insult it this time. Growth, she said, pointing her fork at me. I'm maturing rapidly. Careful, at this rate you'll be emotionally stable by dessert. Let's not set unrealistic expectations. She laughed, and the sound settled into me like home being rebuilt one board at a time. After dinner, we walked along the river, our hands brushing until Claire finally sighed dramatically and grabbed mine. Honestly, she said, must I do everything? I was being respectful. You were being slow. I was savoring. You were hovering. I stopped beneath a street lamp. The river moved dark and silver beside us. Claire. She turned, still holding my hand. Yes? I'm done hovering. Her breath caught. I stepped closer, giving her time, space, 1,000 chances to change her mind. She didn't. She rose up on her toes before I even finished lowering my head. Our first kiss was not stolen, not secret, not owed to heartbreak or born from panic. It was chosen. Her mouth was soft and certain under mine, and when her hand slid to the back of my neck, I felt the last locked room inside me open. I kissed her carefully at first, then less carefully, when she smiled against me and whispered, finally. I laughed into the kiss. She pulled back just enough to look at me. For the record, that was not a gray area. No, that was a very clear area. Good. Then I kissed her again because I could, because she wanted me to, because no part of us had to hide in the rain anymore. A year after that night Lauren left, the house looked different. Not beige, never beige. Claire painted the kitchen a ridiculous shade of blue called Morning Lake, then insisted it brought out the soul of the cabinets. She filled the windowsill with basil, mint, and one stubborn orchid she named Bernadette. My old blue armchair moved to the porch where she liked to grade art projects with her feet in my lap. Lauren remarried quietly, I heard, through someone who heard through someone. I wished her peace and meant it. That surprised me most. Claire and Lauren spoke twice that year, briefly, carefully. Healing, Claire told me, was not the same as pretending nothing happened. She was right about that. She was right about most things, which became deeply inconvenient once we lived together. By the following spring, I rebuilt the back porch swing again. Not because it needed fixing, but because I wanted it strong enough for 2 people planning a future. Claire found me sanding the armrest at sunset. You know, she said from the doorway, normal men buy engagement rings before rebuilding furniture. I froze. She froze too. Then her eyes widened. Unless... I stood, dusted my hands on my jeans, and walked toward her. Claire Donovan, I said, voice rougher than I intended. You once told me to ask properly. Her mouth parted. I reached into my pocket and took out the ring, simple, gold. A small oval diamond with 2 tiny emeralds because green had become her color in my mind. I should have had a speech, I said. Something polished. Something about how you found me in the worst silence of my life and didn't just make noise. You taught me what love sounds like when it's honest. Tears slipped down her cheeks. That sounds like a speech, she whispered. I'm not done. She laughed through the tears. I love your terrible pie opinions, I said. I love the way you argue with paint samples. I love that you make every room feel awake. I love that you chose me carefully when it would have been easier to run from the mess. And I want to choose you every day in daylight, with everyone watching or no one watching. Will you marry me? Claire covered her mouth. For one terrifying second, she didn't answer. Then she said, Yes, you emotionally available disaster. I slid the ring onto her finger, and she threw her arms around my neck so hard I nearly dropped us both. The swing creaked behind us in the soft spring wind. The kitchen glowed blue through the windows. Somewhere inside, the kettle began to whistle, forgotten on the stove. Claire kissed me on the porch where everything had almost begun. And this time, there was no almost left. Just her hands in my hair, my ring on her finger, our house full of color. And the kind of quiet that doesn't mean someone is leaving, the kind that means someone finally came home. What would you have done if your wife left for a girls' trip without a word, and then her sister showed up knowing it was all a lie? Have you ever experienced something even close to that kind of betrayal or unexpected second chance? Tell your story in the comments. If you like this one, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.